Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So I'm here to to start another vlog, and I just filmed my June wrap up, and yeah, and I also went a few errands, did some cleaning and whatnot, and I'm about to lie down, but I decided just to start this video. And currently I am reading The King of Crows by the Everet, which is the last book in the Diviners series by her. And so far I'm very much enjoying it. I'm just gonna give I guess a synopsis vaguely of the entire series. And The Diviners is about these group of kids living in New York, and they all have these special abilities, and we see them come together to try and understand their abilities, and over the course of the series see what they can do, see learn really where their abilities came from, and really the dark history of where their abilities came from while trying to navigate 1920s New York. And so far with this last book, I'm definitely enjoying it. The Diviners, they had to leave New York due to one of the people in charge of, I guess, the program where their powers were created, kind of set New York against them and put a price on their heads if they're arrested. And so they were separated from, a couple of them joined the circus, a couple joined this orchestra, and a few just got on a train and run away, and they are all heading to Nebraska, where someone who might be able to help them lives. And we see how they are seeing the different parts of the country and seeing how different it is to New York, how in the South people are still segregated, and even though segregation has kind of been lifted, and how it affects them, to them it makes them wonder, should they still save the country, while others are thinking, yeah, this is where I want to save my country. And so far I am enjoying it, and yeah. And yeah, I am quite tired from in my wrap up. Yeah, but I think that's all for now. So I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and you could probably tell I was just tired yesterday. I just filmed my June wrap up, so it's just done. But what I did say in my whatever that clip was, which I'm keeping in this video, is that I did one some errands, like pick up a prescription and also some other stuff, and I did film that video. So yeah. And today, as you saw, I also had to go out today. I had a dentist appointment this morning, and on my way back, I decided to go for a bit of a walk in this old house museum thing that I've taken into a bunch of times. So yeah, and I did do some reading, yes, and I'm on page 440 of the King of Crows, and so far I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. I think I said yesterday that the Diviners, they had to split up into groups to get out of New York. They've since reunited in Nebraska with this girl who one of them saw or was connected to through visions they shared, and they're just trying to figure out what to do next, how to stop Jake Marlowe, the King of Crows, and the King of Crows army of ghosts from America's past and whatnot. And that's something I am liking, is the fact how how our history is coming to haunt us, coming to really bite us in the butt, because America's history is quite dark with wars and with slavery, and we've taken land from natives. So it's coming back and like revenge, and also the dead who were not really restful, like who died and they're not at rest, I guess. So yeah, and we see how Evie, she tries to talk to a character who died previously, someone who was extremely close to her, and this was in the previous book, this individual died. And this character was at rest, and now they're no longer at rest, they're at the, I guess, mercy of the King of Crows, and that did something to Evie. Now her strength is weakened, and as well these ghosts, whenever the diviners they're using their powers in general, they are taking the powers from them, and it's making these ghosts stronger, which is something I like. And yeah, and overall, right now we're at a point where Evie and others, like, they were prevented from sharing their story of what's happening in Internet by men who are more powerful than they are, and that's something that I do like. Is who tells the story is important, when the story matters. Like, well done in history. Like, there was a quote I read earlier that I did like a lot, and I marked. It's like, stories were power, and whoever controlled the story controlled everything. A story could bring people together, or it could tear them apart. It could spread like a sickness. Infecting people, it could lead them into battle, or shake them into seeing what they had refused to see before. And it's like these people, these groups, they are all trying to get people to buy into the story they were telling, and now the diviners, they're trying to share their story, and like, who tells the story does matter, and will end up in newspapers and in history books, like, because they're now labeled as watercolors. Like, people might listen wondering like their side, or because they're able to spread their story, people will listen, and that's what I'm liking. And right now we have seen this throughout the novel, like Memphis, like, he wrote these poems on what he was seeing, and he was sending them back to New York to this journalist they trusted, who was publishing them in the newspaper he worked at. And the people who are after them, you ask him about it. Now, yeah, I had to interrupt that clip because my mother needed to talk to me about something. But yeah, right now they're trying to get their story out there by broadcasting on the radio. Like, the people they're staying with have this old radio transmitter that they're utilizing. So yeah, I'm just curious on how that will go, and yeah, I'm just curious on what will happen next, and seeing how what happened to Evie will affect her, and yeah. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and whatnot, and I did finish The King of Crows, and I liked it. I gave it 4 stars through. I do have to say, parts of the ending this felt, compared to the rest of the novel, this felt a bit, not rushed, but a bit sped up. Like, I just don't feel like the pacing matched for the rest of the series. It just felt like we reached a certain point, and then it was like, go, go, go. Like, yeah. Like, one of the characters has to deal with an ex that was quite abusive, and the ex was someone who felt like he could treat this person like however they wished to be, and they took care of the ex, and it was like, it literally lasted like 2 pages. Like, it was this like something glib up where I had to wrap up, it felt like to me, so I wasn't the biggest fan of that. As well as the ending, like, it did feel like go, 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 like things were just happening quite quickly, like, and some of it a bit coincidentally, so. And from what I read, like, I think I mentioned yesterday, like, one of the characters shares visions with this girl who lives in Nebraska, who told them to go to Nebraska so they could all meet up. And they thought, oh, this girl's trying to help them and whatnot. And then when they meet this girl in person, they realize there's a lot of strange things about her, the way she acts, and how her parents treat her, so there's that. But they do learn that she never intended to help them, that the King of Crows led her to believe that she would be his queen. Like, he whispered like what she wanted into her ear, like hopes, and for someone to love her and someone to understand her, because she grew up quite lonely and in a place where her parents treat her like she's much younger than she is, and everyone's afraid of her because of what she can do. So yeah, there is that. And she does kill the character who she shares the vision with, and another one of the characters tries to bring this character back. And yeah, the King of Crows kind of tricks him into that, not into that one, but the bargain they made with the King of Crows. Like, the King of Crows tricked them into something. I don't know, I'm not trying to be vague, but yep. And what I do like is these characters, like, they've been through moments when they felt alone, when they felt like no one understands them, and because of where they come from and what happens. Like, they're all kids, they're all like in their late teens, but they've all just felt alone, and it's like coming to the realization that they're not alone. Yet, like, the people from the places where they came from might not have understood them or liked them or whatever, but now they found people who do understand them, and that is something very beautiful. And I like how that comes into play in a novel, in the sense like it makes their powers stronger, with realizing like, oh, there are people who rely on them, who they can rely on, who they can trust, and who are there for them. Like, that's something that's quite beautiful. And yeah, we see the like kind of the, I guess, the end of like the King of Crows, and like, not Porto, my word, what was it called? It was like, oh my word, what's the word? A connection to our world and the world of the dead. And Jake Marlowe wanted to utilize that. He thought like he could trick the King of Crows, and we learned that King of Crows didn't intend to do that. Like, he tended to in the world. So it was basically this powerful man, this trying to get more powerful, not understanding the consequences or thinking they are in control. And we just see the end of that and whatnot, and how one of the characters, they sacrificed themselves to keep, again, I'm blanking out on the word, honestly, to keep, well, I guess Porto closed. And one thing I like is really, this novel is big on stories. Like, who tells the story is important, the way it's told, who has control over the narrative is important, but also our stories are our own, and it's what will continue on when we're long and gone. As long as there's someone who will continue to tell our story, it will never stop, it will never end, it will never die. I mean, but with the King of Crows, something that one of the characters reveals to him is that he doesn't have his own story. Like, he's made up of so many stories, all of the stories of the dead. And when those stories realize that they're their own story and not his to control and manipulate, they get away from him. He's unwinded by that fact, and that's something I did like, was that scene, like how he's unwinded by himself, his own creation. And I don't know, I just very much enjoyed that. And yeah, now the diviners, they now have to deal with the aftermath, or live in the aftermath of everything that's happened with, now that Jake Marlowe and the whole project that he was like in charge of, with the US government behind them, they will now have to figure out this new life, new way of living. Because with the end of Jake Marlowe and the project, it did affect their abilities, and I'm not saying how, but yeah, they're all affected, and there will be a lot of change. So yeah, but overall, despite the fact I had issues with the pacing towards the end, I did like it. Like, I still gave it 4 stars, and yeah. And I don't think I'll be doing any more reading today. I think I'll be doing more reading tomorrow for damn sure. But the next book I'll be starting is All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. If you see a bookmark in here, it's because I just simply placed one there. But this is about Titus Crown is the first black sheriff in the history of Charlton County, Virginia. In recent decades, Charlton has had only 2 murders. After years of working as an FBI agent, Titus knows better than anyone that while his hometown might seem like a land of moonshine, cornbread, and honeysuckle, secrets always fester under the surface. Then a year to the day after Titus's election, a school teacher is killed by a former student, and a student is fatally shot by Titus's deputies. Those festering secrets are now out in the open and ready to tear the town apart. As Titus investigates the shootings, he unearths terrible crimes and a serial killer who has been hiding in plain sight, haunting the dirt lanes and woodland clearings of Charlton. With the killer's possible connections to a local church and the town's harrowing history weighing on him, Titus's projects confidence about closing the case while concealing a painful secret from his own past. At the same time, he also has to contend with a far-right group that wants to hold a parade in celebration of the town's Confederate history. Charlton is Titus's home and his heart, but where faith and violence meet, there will be a reckoning. So, yeah, and I'm very much intrigued to get into that one. I did about a year ago read Razor Blade Tears by the same author, and I did like it a lot, so yeah, I'm just very much intrigued, and I think that's all for now, so I'll see you next. So, it's the next day, and I did go out today. I wasn't in the mood to film this. I wasn't, and yeah, I had to run some errands, went to a grocery store, and I did go to this independent, I think it's used bookstore that a town near me has. I think it's like for the kids, or kids of the high school there, just to really develop skills and whatnot, to help them. I don't even know the whole, I don't know, thing behind it, but yeah, I didn't film there, that's because I was the only one there, and whenever I hit the film button on my phone, it makes a sound, so I just felt a bit uncomfortable doing that, but yeah, and I did get one book. I got A Dowry of Blood by S.A. Gibson, and yeah, this is a Dracula-y tongue, which I'm not so sure how I'll feel about it. That's because I did give Dracula 3 stars, and at the end of last year I did see, or tried to watch Nosferatu with a friend, whom we both loved, just because I just found it a bit repetitive. It wasn't my thing, so we'll see how I feel about this, but I think this is last of a really retelling of Dracula. Well, it is, but it's not from Dracula's point of view, it's from the point of view of his bride, who is speaking to us as if we're Dracula, which is something that's quite intriguing, so yeah, very much excited about that. And while I was running errands, and since getting home, I did do some reading of All the Sinners Bleed, and I'm on page 58, and so far I would say I'm enjoying it. Sorry. What we learn about Titus is that he was in the FBI and has some cases that have scarred him. Like, he doesn't really want to tell anyone what really happened in a case in, I think it was in Indiana and North Carolina, those cases. And what I like about this novel is that it's not just talking about the physical scars we might have. Like, he has a question mark, a burn on his chest, that's his scar, but also the inner scars we have, like how our memories how we'll always remember this event, how it will always affect us for the rest of our lives, and that's something I do like. And also with Titus, we learn that he's quite obsessed with being tidy and how things should always be in a certain place, and yeah, it seems like it's a a coping mechanism for him that he developed after his mother died, and he has a girlfriend with him. But now he's back in his hometown living with his father, and he is sheriff. He's the chief of police in the police department, so yeah, he has to deal with that. And it seems like a very violent crime scene. This is relevant to what's happened. It seems like they get very little, like maybe 1 or 2, maybe a year, but not often. And when he is called to the school when there's the active shooter, he has nostalgia, I guess, with this whole thing, because he grew up in this town. He knows the parents of the kids who were involved. Hell, he was even friends with the parents of the kid who was the shooter. Like, he had lunch with them when he first came to town. We do see how him being sheriff has affected those relationships, like how people who were initially with him, they have started to really push him away. Probably due to the fact he's still sheriff, so they're afraid of like what would happen if they get on the wrong side of the law. Like, they know he's not the sort of person who will be bribed easily. He's someone who sticks by the rule, what the law is, and follows the law to the hair, which is something I do like. And when they encounter the shooter, it seems like Titus, he does try to talk down the shooter, try to make him put down the gunman. For one of the deputies, he doesn't make his job any easier, it seems like. And this deputy in general is just quite racist, honestly. Like, after him and another one of the deputies shoots the kid, they go into the school, and the kid, like, he only killed one person, a teacher, and the deputy is trying to say that the kid was just spewing Islamic stuff, talking in Arabic when he wasn't. He was talking, and let me just see how to pronounce this, because I have a thing where if I look at a word I might be able to, but aromatic. And so there's that, and we see how Titus doesn't stand for assumptions, and he follows his gut, but also thinks of his next course of action, which I do like. And we see really his relationship with other people in this county, like how the rich folk try to get someone else who was under their thumb to be chief but failed, and now this individual and Titus, like, they constantly butt heads. And I do have to say, I did like how the scene with the kids running out of the school was described. It felt very cinematic, like I could picture it in my head, and I could feel the fear in them, and how in the moment everything felt like time was so slowed down. Like, it was just like maybe 2 hours when it was really 2 minutes, and that's something I didn't like. We also see the aftermath of the shooting, how he follows protocol, how he knows what the protocol is, like how there has to be reports written and an investigation both into like what happened with the shooting, but also if this deputy who shot the shooter, like if he made the right call, like if it was justified. And with this, the deputy, he does have to be on desk duty, something that just pisses off this deputy so much. Oh my word, like he seems like he thinks that if it was anyone else in Titus's position, he would be able to continue on in this investigation. But no, he seems upset because this teacher was a teacher that was beloved, like someone who everyone in the community loved. Like, and this was a teacher who was there even when Titus was in high school in 2000, and how he seemed like a good guy. So for Titus and for this deputy and from the majority of the people in this community, like, it is personal. So that's something I do like seeing, like how everyone thought he was a good guy, how he didn't deserve to be shot and killed. And Titus, when he goes to unlock the teacher's phone, the teacher has it so it's like his fingerprint can unlock his phone, And Titus, he sees some pictures that were saved not on Google Drive, Google Photos, I mean, but on the phone's like gallery, that are very much disturbing. And it's not exactly said what kind of pictures, but it involves children, and it involves children who are black, brown, and there seems like to be like other people involved. So it's like, what the hell was this teacher up to? I'm very much curious on that, like if he was really this good guy, or if he outwardly was a good guy, but inside he was this creep. And what happened that caused this guy to shoot him and whatnot, like that's something I'm very much intrigued. But yeah, why now the paramedics is that they got a warrant to search the house of this teacher and find out what exactly he was involved with. So yeah, there's that. And also something I'm intrigued about is like, what will happen next? How will Titus handle this situation from the community? Because there are those who are, there is a parade that's supposed to happen in protest for this Confederate statue that's going to be taken down to prevent that from happening. So there's going to be like the white, I'm not going to say that word because yikes, nope. But Anne, who will want to say like, yeah, who will be on the side of the deputy saying he did the right thing, all that jazz. Then there's also like the kids' parents in their community who will think Titus isn't doing his job good enough, or he might try to, or they will be watching him very much closely, trying to make sure he doesn't sweep what happened under the rug and say, oh, it was another police shooting, another school shooter, like this. So he doesn't make it so black and white, I guess. Like, someone did say they'll be watching him closely. And this one is a parish or someone who is the leader of the church in this community. I'm blanking out on the exact word, but he seems to want to make it about like, it's just another situation, and not situation, that's probably not the right word, but another case where a white cop shot a black person. Like, there's also the social justice element that Titus will have to handle. So I'm just seeing how all of these elements plus a teacher he thought was very good turn might have not be who he thought he was. So there's that personal aspect. I'm just curious on how everything will wrap up and how, I guess, difficult the people in the community in this county will make Titus's job be of learning the truth and whatnot. So yeah, I think that's all for now. And so it's the next day and I've just done some work and whatnot, and I also had to run a couple of errands today and whatnot, and I did do some reading of All the Sinners Bleed. Put me on page 128, and I'm definitely liking it. I'm liking how Titus, like, he's someone who's so, like, he wants to follow protocol to the fullest extent. He tries to do that. Like, he, even if it upsets people, he follows everything by the law. He wants to do everything properly. Like, it's his job to ensure everything is done properly. And it's like, because of how this investigation has gone, he kind of really talk about the evidence they've uncovered on the teacher's phone that's quite incriminating, or what was on his hard drive. So he has to allow people to continue thinking this teacher was a good guy who was amazing, best dude ever, funniest dude ever, like such, like, they give him a lot of praise, and yet he knows what kind of person this teacher really is, and it's eating at him. And now he has to have, like, I guess, outside influence come in with because of what was on the cell phone. The state police have to get involved, and so does the FBI, and it's a bigger thing than this simple school shooting. what happened with the shooter. His name his last name is Lateral. But yeah, we see as well the other deputy like who shot the shooter, how he's hoping that it was a clean shot, but he knows that this is this protocol that they just want to make sure that everything was done proper, that everything was, I guess, legit, or that it was a good shot, I guess. And so yeah, there's that, and as well, we continue seeing how personal this case is for Titus and for the others, because this is a small town and everyone's known each other, and Titus, like, he knew this teacher. Really, they all knew this teacher, so they have to connect the person they thought he was with the person he really is, and a lot of them are like in self-denial, and seeing that is amazing. We do see like Titus, he's been in the FBI like for years. He's seen a lot. Like he was in domestic terrorism, and he was in other units and behavioral science, and as well he does have this dark, I guess, thing in his profile, not profile, but in his record, or this family, they blew themselves up, and then seeing what was on this teacher's phone, it stuck with him. It's impacted him worse. It's affecting him very negatively because he's seen a lot, and yet something is hitting him, or I don't know. You may see how it breaks him, how he ends up breaking his own protocol by telling his father-in-law was on the phone, and Titus, he already had a very fragile relationship with God because he's upset with God for not healing his mother and instead of taking her away. And after the mother's death, his father did turn to God eventually, and the father tries to tell Titus it was God's plan, and Titus is like, bullshit. Like, these kids went through what they went through, and you're telling me that's God's plan? I refuse to accept that, so yeah. And we continue how he's just really been reduced to just a black man with a badge, even though he went to school with people in this town. Like, you see how there's a protest with someone who kind of drew a black line in front of this Confederate statue that was put up by the Daughters of Confederacy in, I don't know, place or something, and it's just upsetting him. So yeah, that's how he has to deal with local politics and local stuff, and so they worry that he'll, have some bias against him because of his skin color, and then the people who voted him in, they are upset with him because these people, they want to hold some sort of parade or march in protest of the statue possibly being taken down, and the sheriff department does have to stay there as guards to make sure there's no violence or anything, and it's like they're just doing their job. But some people think that he should be on their side because of his skin color, but he's just doing his job. Yeah, we see how this case is quite gnarly, and some of the details. Yeah, now the case is so the case is less about really figuring out why Natural shot the teacher, and now it's more about finding the identities of the children who they harmed, and as well there was a third party involved, and they are trying to find the third party who, because he was also wearing a wolf mask and he never took it off, they refer to him as the last wolf. So yeah, I'm very much curious on that, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I did some chores and whatnot, some cleaning. And when I reviewed yesterday's footage, I noticed there's like some redness under my eyes. I don't know if it's obvious on camera, but yeah, or in video just because I don't know what caused it, so yeah. But anyway, I did do some more reading today of All the Sinners Bleed, and I'm on page 232, and I definitely am like, and I would say I guess not enjoying, but I'm very much intrigued or liking the whole like religious stuff with this. In a sense, Titus, he no longer believes in God when his mother died, because when his mother died, he thought like God should have saved her and whatnot, and he said when he stopped attending church, he ended in an abusive relationship with God. So to him, it seems like God is taking all of their love and given nothing in return, and he sees how unfair it is. Like, as well, in this town, they're hypocrites in the sense they all praise God, they all praise like we have to do good for each other and all that. And yet, there is a quote that says they will call a girl a whore if she reports a rape. So, yeah, and we also see how people, they, in eyes of tragedy, they just stop believing. When he informed one of the victim's parents that the victim was that she had hoped that and prayed and wanted that they would come back, that they would be okay. And she and her child, they were both using, and she quit using. She changed her life in the hopes that her child would be part of her, and yet to her now it all seems to be done in vain. And there's a quote on page 172 that I liked. It reads, "Faith is a fragile thing, Sheriff. Do you know that? They like to talk about mustard seeds and not walking by sight and all that shit. But the truth is, it don't take much to break your faith. Get sick, get broke, or lose your only son. Your faith will run out of town faster than a deadbeat daddy." And it's like, you want to believe that goodness will come to you, and yet when this goodness doesn't come, when you get something you don't think you deserve, like you don't deserve to get sick, you don't deserve to lose your children, that's when you lose the faith. That's when you just become, I guess, almost angry at this God for just taking your love and not really doing anything to give you the life that you know you deserve, a good life, because in your eyes you are a good person. So yeah. And plot-wise, they get a call on the hotline from someone who might know the location these children were taken and who the last wolf is. Through this person, they start to panic and regret it and hang up. Titus recognizes the voice. Someone he knows. Like, this is still a very small town. Like, everyone knows everyone, and it's like, I'm also like you don't really know who people are. Like, you think you do, but you don't. And that's the thing I'm just like, like, not knowing who people are. Like, I don't know. I just find people so complex. Like, not just, and I think we try to put people in a bubble and keep them in a bubble. And we, like, if we see something that doesn't seem fair, like, and yeah, and how. Yeah, with this caller, the last wolf got to this person and murdered them in a quite gruesome way, I would say. Like, I think what happened in certain steps, but actually it happened in other steps, and there's many more gruesome. So, like, the last wolf even removed the face of this person to prevent them from being identified through. They later mailed the face to the police. Yeah. And Titus thinks this person either has some sort of religious trauma or is a zealot who is trying to remove what he thinks is sinners from their world due to the carving of attacks on the children in the name on the recently deceased the person who knew who the last wolf was of an angel's name. I said Euro, but I feel like that's so long. And yeah, we really see how Titus has to continue to deal with someone on the town board who is trying to get answers quicker than they can be provided. As the town, they rely on tourism from people from the north who come, see the old plantations, and try to make themselves feel better about the fact that that is no longer the way of things. We've moved past this dark past, like that kind of stuff. And if people start hearing about the serial killer we're gonna moan, well, Sharon County might not exist anymore. So yeah. And yeah, we also see more of really Titus's personal relationships. How there still seems to be something unresolved, like towards his ex-girlfriend who comes to town because she is a podcast host as a psychic, and she wants to interview him for a story she's writing about what's happening in this town, and it seems like he still is someone in love with her, and he only left because she didn't understand after the crime family he was investigating blew up in his face. And he knows that Darlene, like, she's a good woman, she's quite sensitive and worries. And speaking of Darlene, like, he worries like how he can make her feel safe in her own community, even who he was. I bet we see the complexities of his relationship with his brother, how the brother seems to have gone a much darker way after their mother died, and how it seems almost estranged, like they don't see each other often, and his brother constantly gets into trouble. And yeah. And now Titus has to worry. One of his deputies is corrupt. He's taken bribes from someone at the local watering hole, which I'm assuming is like a Southern for bar. And this person is suspected of dealing drugs, of transporting them, and this deputy, he informs this owner every time the police are planning to do a raid on his business, and then he gets paid a good amount, like it's $999, like right under like what the RS would notice. And the thing is, this deputy was dumb enough to put the money in a bank and go to the bank and deposit it in. Yeah, we see how Titus reacts to that in a sense. Like, he's very much disappointed, and the deputy tries to say, "Oh, I had to do it for my wife, my daughter," and yet it's like Titus is like, "Dude, really? I see the way you're living. You're living a way more luxury life than you can afford on a police salary. Like, give me a break." And yeah, he just fires him and gives him a warning that he'll be keeping a close eye on him. So yeah. And he goes back to talk to Elias, who is a priest at this church that's on an island, and he's not there. Who a neighbor does talk to Titus and tells how this newborn baby just suddenly showed up in Elias's family. Like, the wife wasn't pregnant, and it wasn't any of his daughters. It just showed up, and she tells him about the abuse this boy went through at the hands of the family, especially Elias and his brother, and how it seems like they were trying to hide the fact he's mixed race, because this family, and Elias especially, is quite racist. So yeah, the boy killed the priest's son, not son, my word, the brother, and went away. And this is likely our suspect, and we now know our motive. So yeah, that's where I'm now at. And right now, what we're trying to do is like trying to figure out is like, Elias, he has gone missing. No one's seen him in a few days, so it's like, where is he? Where's Elias? So yeah, they're putting a bull over him, and yeah, I'm wondering if he'll be our next victim or what, but yeah, so far I'm definitely liking it. I'm liking the quotes and this really discussions, especially personally I'm not religious, but I can see how a relationship with God for some people might be not perfect, or they might not understand what God, or they might not understand like God's plan. They feel like God's let them down. Like I can see how people have just lost faith in God due to losing people that they love, or themselves getting sick, or just seeing people they love like walked away being the word of God's plan, and especially with allies, especially with Titus and all he's seen on the job. Like the children went through something quite brutal, and his father did say earlier that it was God's plan, and it's like, really? God's plan was to have these kids suffer? Really? Like God is all loving and whatnot, so why would he allow his children to suffer as well? But yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I went to this tag sale. I bought a basket and a couple like pretty jars. That's the term. And yeah, I also went on a walk, which was quite beautiful. Like it was quite cool, not too hot. So. And then I had to do errands. I just did my grocery shopping and had to make a return and whatnot. And I also did a bit of reading, and I did finish All the Sinners Bleed, and I liked it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. You see how this case becomes personal for Titus as the last wolf starts to taunt him, and Titus like realizes like he didn't want this killer to have like I guess a name like the Zodiac Killer or the BTK Killer or the Jack the Ripper. Like he just wanted, like he didn't want him to be, he didn't want the media to make him a sensation for people to fear. Well, they should fear him, but people to turn him into this myth that they'll never catch. And he realizes that's what he did by calling him the last wolf. Anyway, yeah, and the last wolf, he even goes as far as nailing a lamb to Titus's front door, making Titus believe that last wolf is spiraling out of control and kind of losing it. Titus does get some confirmation that it is this kid is racist from this racist family, hateful family took in and just abused her on this name, and he tries to taunt the killer back and by calling him his actual name, and one of the killer says his flock is in danger, and Titus's ex is still in town to really create this podcast episode of The Killer, and she asks Titus if he wants to come over listen to this, like, to that episode, and Titus goes there just to catch up with an old friend and really to get know more about this podcast and whatnot. He goes and he sees the killer in the apartment, oh my word, bed and breakfast when she's in. He killed her, like, assistant, I guess, that was, and tried to attack her. I just shot him and he ran, and this did lead to Darlene, like, really deciding to leave, Titus to leave town. Like, darling, she stayed because that's where her family was, but her parents have moved away, and she hasn't gotten in her head that Titus doesn't love her as much as he thinks he does. Like, if he truly did love her, he would call to check on her, protect her, like when what happened if his ex did, but he didn't do that, so yeah, she left. And like, there is this like fall festival that's occurring that I just didn't really want to occur because of the killer news, but it brings revenue into the county, so the council's like, you know what, we're doing anyway. And this fall fest, these people, these white supremacists, who believe that the town might take down this statue of this Confederate soldier, and they're not going to do that, but they are going to march to prevent that. Like, Titus has to be there to prevent chaos from occurring, and chaos occurs when counter-protests led by the priest, Jamal Anderson, I think his name was, and they counteract that, and someone from the white supremacist side, someone who Titus was looking into as a witness for the crimes that have been occurring. Once a truck flew them, and yeah, Titus and his deputy Clara, they tried to shoot at the tires and ended up shooting the guy who didn't really have much reason, because he got another DUI. He was gonna lose his commercial driver's license. He wouldn't be able to drive a truck anymore, and he would have lost his job. So he just didn't have a lot to lose. And as well, what happened leads to the priest to lose hope that things will change, as people continue to die by those who don't want change to occur and are afraid of what will happen or what they'll lose when the change does occur. And we do learn more about Titus's history on why he left the FBI, aka he did something during this issue with this crime family where he played judge, jury, and executioner, and he took justice into his own hands, and the FBI wanted to keep quiet about it, and yeah. And we continue to see how Titus has to deal with the people in this town who are greedy. Like, there's people in this town who they are rich, they have status in this town, and yet that's not enough. Or not, they're not rich, but they have money, and yet for them it's like this money is not enough. Like, we see the issue with his deputy, and then we see the issue with the local priest who might be taking some funds from the charity boat they'd be taking, or he's using his position as a priest to buy more luxury goods, it seems like, or how this rich councilman he's been dealing with, who's rich, like that money is not enough, like all of it is not enough, they want more and more. And yeah, that's something I'm like in this him that's getting sick and tired of people's bullshit. And he confronts the killer, and that whole thing ends. And the novel ends when he decides to go to kind of retire from the sheriff, like not retire but resign from the sheriff and go on to become a criminology professor, as he's just tired of the nightmares that come with his job, and he just wants something that's a bit more peaceful and whatnot. And we see how businesses are, even Charlotte County and Charlotte County, there seems to be dying, so who knows what will happen with it, but the novel ends with Titus decided he's gonna take down the statue in his own terms right before he leaves town, and it's just that whole thing was just made me cackle. And the fact that last line is like him just really laughing as he's leaving this county behind, like a big F you to the people there who his life in nightmare. Yeah, overall I enjoyed it, and with me finishing this book, and it is Saturday, that is also the end of this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, tell me what you've been up to recently. You If you want to, please subscribe to this channel if you want to follow me on any social media, then I'll do some running down bar below. I'll see you guys next time with this video. Bye.